Hello, everybody, and welcome to CSM Mastermind. I'm Andrew Marks, co-founder of Success Hacker and our success coaching training program. Sorry, every once in a while I forget where I am. Thank you for joining our monthly CS Mastermind webcast, where we bring together professionals from across the customer experience ecosystem, from customer success managers to support specialists and everyone in between. Today's session is brought to you by Success Coaching, where we've helped more than 40,000 customer-facing professionals. Can you believe that? 40,000 from almost 100 countries develop the skills they need to excel. Whether you're in customer success, support, or any customer-facing role, you can find the right program for your learning style. You can find all of our details of our offerings on our website, successcoaching.co, or in the chat where Ashley has just provided links and coupon codes that we're offering. And really excited, especially with this new focus that we have with support, that we have released our support training product, which I believe, yes, awesome. Ashley has dropped that in there as well. So thank you, Ashley. So check that out. CS Mastermind is all about real world expertise. No theoretical frameworks or abstract concepts here. We dive deep into practical advice and actionable insights that you can apply immediately to your role. Today, we're exploring how customer support teams can approach every interaction with a success-oriented mindset as part of the launch of our new customer support training track. And we've brought together an outstanding panel of experts who will share their hands-on experience with us. A little bit of housekeeping, though, before we begin. We're recording this session, and we'll share the replay next week. Please use the Q&A button for questions, and the most upvoted ones will get priority during our discussion. LinkedIn Live viewers, feel free to post your questions directly in comments. Thank you, Santana, for monitoring that. For smooth sailing, keep the chat window for commentary only. Now, I'm excited to introduce our fantastic panelists who will be sharing their insights with us today. As usual, I will let them introduce themselves to you all in alphabetical order, and we'll start with David.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, David Mangham, Vice President of Customer Operations for TraumaSoft. We're an EMS software provider. Been in customer service, support, customer success, 25 plus years in the healthcare industry, wireless technologies, kind of the gamut of things. And I've seen a lot of evolution in the customer support world, if you will, and really view customer support as that front door to a company after the sale. But really looking forward to the conversation today.
Awesome. Thanks, David. On to Geoff.
Yeah, I'm Geoff Parker. I'm the Director of Technical Support at Calendly. Calendly is a scheduling system and a lot more than that. I've spent the last decade working with various SaaS programs in different companies, mostly in the small to medium business size. I've kind of specialized in building and making efficient processes. And that's what my love is taking things that are ineffective and making them more effective. I think customer support is the pinnacle of any organization, is a critical facet of being successful in a business, and having a good team is really important in standing up for the voice of your customers. So that's the approach I've been taking, and it has done well for me, and then seen my businesses grow and do a lot of good stuff.
Love it. Thanks, Geoff. And last but not least, Sham.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hesham Osman. I go by Sham. A customer success manager at Two Ship Solutions. It's a SaaS company for shipping solutions. Over 5 years in customer service, including technical support, customer success. Over 15 years in call centers environment, from entry level to operational management for different industries, airline, telecom, financial services. Excited to be here. Looking forward to our discussion.
Awesome. Thanks, Sham. All right. Now that we know our fantastic panelists, let's get going on our topic. Let me start with something provocative, which is something I seem to do all the time these days. Customer support teams have more influence over customer retention than your entire marketing department. Think about it. Marketing brings customers in the door, but support teams determine whether they stay. Every interaction with a customer is a moment of truth that either builds or erodes trust. Yet many organizations still treat support as just another cost center rather than a revenue generator. The difference between transactional interaction and one that builds lifetime value often comes just down to the mindset of the people who are on those calls and having those communications. So today's question is simple but powerful. What if your support team approached every conversation not as a problem to solve, but as an opportunity to demonstrate why your customer made the right choice in selecting your company?
I think that's a powerful question, Andrew. And what I have kind of imagined in my mind is, could you imagine a one-to-one relationship with your customers and a CSM? If you could curate that, what would be the value that would bring to your organization? And it makes sense that if you can have that mindset, you would see reduction in churn, long-term value, so much better customer engagement, expansion opportunities. All these elements would come together if every single support agent thought like a CSM. And so I think there's real opportunities in a lot of the organizations I've experienced to kind of help educate agents to get this more business mentality versus this break fix mentality that I think a lot of support agents fall into due to volume. And so I think it really has to be some strategy in your organization to kind of help drive this important concept with individual agents.
Well, David, you actually were one of our early adopters of our support track.
Right.
And your team's going through that right now. And a big part of that of you buying into that was for that very reason was, hey, our support folks should be thinking more from a success standpoint, which was how we kind of built out that support track. It's not, we didn't just repurpose a bunch of our success training and called it support. We actually, we redeveloped it, but it was based on the foundations of the success training, which one of your previous teams went through as well. Maybe you can speak to, kind of follow on with what Geoff said there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to jump in anyway. It's, prior to coming to TraumaSoft, I was working with a company that we managed the Microsoft escalations business. It was very much a numbers driven when we started, numbers driven and how quickly can you go through tickets. And we pivoted that to a much more customer success centric relationship approach. When I came to TraumaSoft, it was once again very much about how many tickets did I, open and close today, et cetera, and not did you get to know your customer? Did you truly understand what their problems were? And did you solve those problems? And throughout that understanding of the customer, where we were really lacking was a mindset of it's about getting to know and building a relationship with your customer, not just what's the problem, how can I solve it so I can close the ticket. When we've pivoted to that, and it's been a little bit less than a year, already have seen a dramatic impact in two things. One, how well we know our customers and how we can help them, but the relationships, and more importantly, the relationships we've built. And this is something that everybody on my team has done a good job of. We still have a long way to go. And that is not just focused on the customer, but focused on the person. What's their challenge? How is their problem impacting not only their company, but their role within the company? So you can build that empathy to really understand what's the impact of this problem and how should I treat it and how ultimately do I solve that problem for it? And that really gets into a lot of the components of the training that you talked about that are also the components of customer success. Active listening, asking open-ended questions, really being empathetic to your customer, and at the end of the day, understanding your customer and their customer's business. I mean, I could go on a lot more, but the training's really helped the team, and we're about halfway through it, to, in many cases, look at the support role as somebody different than just, let me get the data points so I can then go and plug that in and find the solution and move on, but shift it to how do I build a relationship with this customer?
Jam, you got anything to add about that? I mean, we started, David started to touch on some of the skills and the behaviors or approaches that distinguish a success-oriented mindset from more the problem resolution mindset. And you've lived in both worlds, both as a success manager as well as a support agent. What comes to mind from your perspective regarding those fundamental behaviors?
Awesome. It's a very powerful perspective. And as you said, I have lived in the call center environment where the KPIs, the key performance indicators, always something in a very dynamic environment in the call centers. Unfortunately, there was always a debate about, is it about the numbers, the quality, or the productivity? And the customer focus area is a little bit left behind. This is in the call centers environment. In the SaaS environment, it comes to when technical support to receive a ticket from the client. We all know that most of our SaaS companies, the support team relies more on the developers or solutions who could be living in a different time zone. And the support find themselves stuck with, I don't know how to answer this ticket, what to tell to the client. And then we use to direct the support agent to say, just acknowledge it and keep it pending. Now, the question is, this acknowledgement is a great opportunity to start engaging with the client. And as David said, and Geoff said, this is the time to shift your mindset of the support agent from, I would like to solve the problem, to I would like to reinforce a value for this. So 3 different things here can lead to this. One is through active engagement. Use this just about to acknowledge, we received your email, thank you, I'll get back to you. No. Try to create a value for this reply rather than just acknowledge the ticket. Second one is strong relationship, showing customers they are valued, not just supported. Increase the retention, reinforcing the benefits of your solutions at every touch point.
Awesome. Thanks, Sham. Geoff, you got anything to add about any specific behaviors or approaches that distinguish that success-oriented mindset from a problem resolution mindset in support interactions? I mean, you're living this every day in your role, managing your teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big thing is getting the knowledge of the customer. If we knew everything, if we had like full transparency, understood what the role of the person reaching out was, what are their, position in their organization, what are the things they care about, what are their own KPIs. If we had perfect transparency, knew everything, every conversation would reinforce that value. And so as a support agent, what the behaviors that we really try to push for is having kind of a natural curiosity about who this person is, what they're trying to accomplish. And it's a big part of our QA program that we make sure we're asking those information pieces up front. So first, we're kind of like reiterating, hey, you said this, and I want to make sure I understood you correctly. This is what you said back to me. Tell me about a little bit about how this impacts your business so we can kind of get a sense for what's actually happening. Particularly with Calendly, we have a diverse product. It can do a lot of different things. And so we're in a position frequently of not necessarily knowing exactly what our users are trying to accomplish. And so we have to have like this real strong natural curiosity about the customer themselves when they're reaching out and what their really end goal is. And I love success folks. In fact, some of the best support folks I've ever had were success-minded people. And whenever they apply and I talk to them, I'm always like, yeah, that's a thumbs up in my book. It's because they want to solve for that. They're trying to say, how can I take my business product and whatever issues coming together and share that value back with the customer? And so I think one of the best ways to do it and still be efficient is to generate that curiosity. So you start off on a foundation of knowing what they're trying to get done instead of, this is the exact problem and I'm fixing it.
Now, Geoff, I think you hit on a key. Oh, go ahead, Sham.
Sorry about that. I just want to say that a very simple practice for this is, rather than saying that I'll find out how we can do that for you, is can you tell me a little bit more about why do you need this? Because I may have a better option for you, or a better feature for you, or a better outcome for you.
The 5 whys, the old 5 whys technique. Yeah.
I was absolutely going to go there. I mean, it's ask them also, how are they doing it today? So you can understand. But I wanted to piggyback on what Geoff said about curiosity. If I use kind of the term intellectual curiosity, if you can find people that have that skill, and it's even more than a skill, it's really a mindset. To me, I will take somebody that has that mindset over somebody that maybe is a strong technical person, because you can train them on the technical elements of your solution. But if they don't have that curiosity, which leads to the 5 whys and continually digging deeper, which honestly I think is a big challenge for many support teams, they ask the one, maybe 2 questions, but they don't continue to dig to get to the root of the problem. They may solve for the surface problem, but you ask those questions and you have that curiosity, you're going to have rock stars on your support team. And you're also going to have a lot of future CSMs if you want.
Yes.
I feel like I need to put up 100 emoji to your comment there, David, because that's precisely what I look for in my hiring practices is people that are genuinely curious and know how to get to the root of things.
And what ends up happening with that curiosity is you not only better understand the customer situation, but you begin to establish, if you're using proper active listening techniques, which David, you mentioned as well. I think one of the most powerful aspects of active listening, besides the listening, is restating back to the speaker what they said in your own words, because that tells them two things. Number one, that you understood what they had to say, and number two, that you were actually listening, right? And what that does, it builds trust, right? And the more trust we build, the better that relationship becomes, whether they end up with that support agent in the future when they call or not, right? If the entire team is all being trained on and focused on the right mindset, then they should expect the same type of interaction regardless of who picks up the phone.
Right.
Now, we've all experienced situations where customers contact support feeling frustrated or even angry. How can support professionals maintain a success-oriented approach when they're facing negative emotions, and what techniques have you found most effective for turning those types of situations around? And I'm going to ask Geoff to lead us off in this one.
Yeah, that is an important question. The number one thing that I've seen personally to turn around these conversations is an alignment with the customer and being like, I understand that this is really impactful to you and your business. Whatever they're mad about, typically there's like a real reason, getting to that reason, aligning with it. And then the second piece of that is ownership. I will take this to its conclusion. Whatever it goes to engineering, or if it has to go to our legal or wherever, I'm going to be here along the whole journey with you. I'm going to be updating you, and I'm going to be following through with whatever my word is, whatever I say to you, I'm going to do. If you can do those two things, I haven't been in a scenario where somebody wasn't able to kind of turn around from that.
David, you got anything to add?
You said the other thing, agree 1,000% on that. Especially the ownership piece, which is so critical. They don't want to feel bounced around. But I think also if you can share, if you have these examples of, you know what, I just had a customer who called me yesterday or 2 days before with this similar type of situation. We solved that in a timely manner. So I know exactly what you're going through. Here's what I propose to do. So if you have some of those stories and examples where you can show them that you're not the only one who's experienced this, and for those other people that had the same or similar type issues, we solve that for them, and we'll get this solved for you, and I'm going to own it until it's resolved.
What about, Sham, what about this idea of apologizing? Now, I believe, and I actually recommend people apologize, not to take blame, but to apologize for the situation. Right? We're not assigning blame to anybody. We're just saying, hey, I'm sorry this is happening to you. Right? That doesn't necessarily say that you're apologizing because we screwed up. Just apologizing for the situation. And I personally have used that to de-escalate a angry customer myself.
Back days in the training for the entry level field for customer service, they used to tell us, do not say sorry if we are not responsible for the error happen. Later on, we recognized that, hold on a second, first, put yourself in the other situation.
Right.
That's the key. So if you are in the other person's situation and you see the pain point, what the problem happened, whether the report is not working, the features failed, failure in something, uploading made the whole platform frozen, anything of this.
Or they screwed it up, right?
Yeah, could be. A user made something wrong. Yes. I feel really sorry about the whole situation. Doesn't mean that I am sorry for what I did if I did nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
What about you, Geoff? What do you with your team? How do you, Geoff and David with your teams? How do you approach that whole thing, the whole sorry thing?
we make that a part of our QA as well. We reinforce the empathy statement, especially at the beginning of a conversation. I think it is one of those connective components to folks. If you can come in and say, "Hey, I see that this is a pain for you," or "I'm sorry that like you're in this situation where you had to go through all the effort to reach out to me because you need to express something." There, in most scenarios, unless it's just like a random question, if it's a true problem being brought forward, we definitely require folks to be in there and give that empathy statement up front, because I think it's a big factor of trust. I do think that it's that alignment I was talking about earlier. It's like you can't align with someone if you don't see from their perspective. And yes, it could be their own fault. It doesn't even matter. They're having a response, they're having a pain point. And if you can just get on board with it a little bit, it can go a really long way in kind of building that factor of trust and getting to the root cause of the problem.
Yeah, I think understanding, it gets back to understanding their business. And, we have a lot of people, we're a very niche focus area. So for, people out there that are in an industry that's very focused on a certain group or market, you know what it's like to be in the customer's shoes. So you kind of have to think like a customer. And it may not be their fault, but to your point about apologizing for the situation that they're in helps really remove some of that frustration. At the end of the day, they're very frustrated about the situation. We own a part of that, even if we aren't the actual cause of that, but we're there to solve that problem. And, I do hire a lot of people that come from the industry, and when they can share, getting back to that storytelling, I know exactly what it feels like when you're trying to do the following job and plug in whatever that job is that your product supports them to do, and empathize with them. That does a long way towards, deflecting that anger. But you do have to accept the fact that, hey, we're sorry you're in this and we're here to get you out of it. And then move forward on understanding it more and then working through the resolution of the issue.
Yeah.
But put yourself in the customer's shoes. They don't care whether it's I screwed it up or it's your software that screwed up.
Right.
It's the situation that's screwed up.
Exactly. And that's exactly what when I talk to people, when I coach people that they should say they're sorry. If you're not sorry, you're sorry for the situation. You're sorry that they had to go through the trouble of spending time to pick up the phone and call you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that takes time out of their day as well. Right? And once again, whether that's their fault, that's our fault, that's none of our faults, doesn't really matter. We're sorry for the situation. Just a reminder, folks, please go ahead and post questions using that Q&A button. We will get to questions here in about another 10 to 15 minutes. But we definitely want to answer your questions. And if you see a question on that list that is something that you would like to hear an answer to, please upvote that question as well, because we will be going based off of most upvotes. Okay, my next question for the group here, moving beyond individual interactions, how can we support professionals? How can support professionals connect their daily work to broader customer outcomes like retention and expansion? What specific language or frameworks help them see this bigger picture? Basically, what are some of the things that they can be doing individually to help improve the work process, both within their team as well as their broader organization?
I'll take a stab at this one. Oh,
go for it, Geoff.
Okay. Specifically, I come from a technical background, and that's, the area of focus that I have in my current role. And so I'm often about how do we take information from a customer and deliver it into the organization. And so one of the things that I've realized recently in my career is like the data is not sufficient if it's just this is the problem and this is what it needs to get to. And I'm thinking feature requests, I'm thinking even bugs. We really have to get past that into a place where we're expressing why it is impactful, and what I currently call is kind of taking a user story. So you're saying, this is what the user expressed, this is why it impacts their business, and this is what they want from an outcome for it, and utilizing that as like an element of information back into the organization. That statement is so much more powerful than just saying, hey, here's a feature request that people have been asking for. It's like, this is how it impacts their business. And so that informs the organization on like how they can make better changes. And they have real examples of like what makes an impact. And so from a support professional perspective, how that impacts the business, I think creating a quality like voice of customer program is really critical to making sure that your customers feel like they're heard. And in that voice of customer program, you have to have some back channel that kind of reiterates or gets back to the customer as you're doing your actions as a business. And so always finding that why, if you can take that why and you can convey it back to the organization, that is going to drastically impact and improve each scenario for the customer outcomes. So I think that's the number one shift that I think I've seen from just a data this point to this point is like capturing that why and then delivering it back is really powerful from a support perspective.
And delivering it back is super critical piece of the puzzle, right, David? I mean, these suggestions, these ideas, these complaints can't just go into a black hole.
I mean, Andrew, as you know, I'm a huge fan of voice of the customer programs. We've talked in the past about it.
Yep.
And there's the inputs, and I think it's critical, what Geoff touched on, having support as one of the channels into the voice of a customer program to share the impact and the opportunities that our customers bring up as ways to improve the product and ways for customers to use the product in new ways to be more effective at their role is so critical. They're the best. I personally feel our customers are our best people to drive roadmap discussions, et cetera. Not make roadmap decisions, but discussions. But at the end of the day, if you don't close the circle on that feedback, what you really end up doing is frustrating, getting back to that frustration thing, frustrating customers that they're not being listened to and acted upon. And so when you can take that information that the support team captures, because they're out there, they're talking to the broad base of the customers, probably more customers than any other part of the company, identify the trends that come out of that, and then share that back in your product team, your sales team, your marketing teams of here's what our customers are saying about the new feature. We do feature releases every 2 weeks, and I can tell you we do them on Mondays and Wednesdays. Our Tuesdays and Thursdays are very interesting conversations around our support team to understand how did customers receive this new feature functionality? Are they struggling with how to implement it? What are other things? And we've taken that feedback and used that to not only improve our processes of how we do things like release notes and even the timing of our releases, but we also then can feedback, especially those impact statements of how this new feature impacted the business so that we can focus on doing more impactful things. Because we're not here to make our customers good user of the software. We're here to make our customers more effective in their job by using our software.
That's the value. They're not buying your software. They're not buying whatever you're selling, to use it. They're buying it because they want to achieve some sort of outcome, which is typically tied to some sort of organizational objective, right? And you are just a piece in that puzzle, right? Sham, you got anything to add to that?
I have. I want to say something going back to what Geoff mentioned about the support when they collect the information and the answers for the why. It's very important to keep in mind that if you're dealing with different segments, and then you take this information from a specific segment, let's say the small business user, and then you want to go to the solution teams or the developers saying that we have a customer, he requested this to work in different way, this feature, or adding an additional bar, or removing a bar, or something like this. You don't want to do this for all your different segments and interrupting others. So maybe training the support to take detailed, very specific about that customer, exchange the information in a right way, accurate way. You can create a template to show what type of client is this, small business or corporate, medium, what large, whatever. So the developers or the outcome will not interrupt other customers, and they will get another upset guy saying, why you did that for me? I didn't request this. So that's something important. On the other side, about the voice of the customer, I think I attended a webinar for SurveyMonkey a few weeks ago, and it was talking about it's really important. It's input output. So it's really important to review the questions. What do you want to hear from the client? And based on that, design your question. Do not just copy paste or take a templates. Go back to the question and say, if you want to hear from the customer what these features do for you, like David said, or what the most features in our platform is really working to help you achieve your values or your business outcomes. So take a look, review word by word every question, remove those irrelative questions about how much is your household income. We don't need to do this, or we do need to know about this. It's more important about what we want to hear from our clients.
And the way you get that is and it's the first course in the support track, and the second course in the success track, thinking like a customer, right? So I need to employ empathy. I need to get in my customer's shoes and say, okay, if I'm going to be a customer, how am I going to, how am I going to respond to these questions, right? So orienting yourself to the customer is super important. It's why it's at the beginning of our programs as well, because that's where it all begins.
I want to go back to something David said, because I think it's the epitome of what I wish everyone would understand about about support function, and is that we're not here to teach people software. We're here to get people to business outcomes. Yeah. People get so caught up. I mean, I've seen this in other support professionals in like, how do we make sure people understand the software? Yes, but that's not the focus. The focus is we want them to get their business objectives. And so how do we facilitate business objectives by training with the software? And where those friction points are, that's what you have to highlight back to your organization to drive changes so that you can make better business outcomes. If you can have great business outcomes and you can show that story each and every day, then obviously your product's going to fly off the shelf. It's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to expand. And that's the value that support has, is if they can get into that mindset, that's outside of the break fix, right? That's outside of this is how the software works. No, this is what you're going to get out of doing this for your business. If they can capture that, then they're just going to win.
And that's how you move closer to what I said in the beginning, is moving away from being just recognized as a cost center and being more recognized as a revenue generator.
Mm-hmm. And understand, to your point, Geoff, I mean, understanding your solution and the outcomes it delivers versus the functionality. Everybody needs to know the X's and O's, if you will. But as you're having those conversations with the customer and they're sharing their desired outcomes, I know a lot of times our team, and we're just starting to do it, it's like, oh, by the way, do you know we can help you achieve that outcome by using the following module, whatever. Happy to talk to you a little bit about it and how it could impact your business. And if you're interested, I can get somebody from sales to follow up with you. And this is something I have a weekly meeting with sales to discuss all the, I call them in success, customer success qualified leads.
CSQL.
Now I'll change it to customer support qualified leads.
Well, it's a CSQL. It's the same thing, right? It's
exactly. CSQL.
Yeah.
And we track against that because we have a list of opportunities that literally come out of those asking why conversations, understanding what outcomes they achieve, that are generating revenue that at the end of the day may or may not have happened if we hadn't had those conversations that the support agent have. Sales, like I said earlier, sales isn't talking to as many customers, especially existing customers, as we are. And it's a great opportunity to tell the story of the different solutions you bring to the table that can achieve the outcomes your customers are looking to achieve.
I think that's even accurate for success teams. Like their volume at scale is nothing compared to most support organizations. So if you can just take, a piece of how they approach and how they think about the customer and implant that into your support team, you can really have some, economies of scale.
This is what drove us. We recognized this years ago. This is what drove us to develop the support track, right? Yeah. Support is talking to the customers more than success is.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So why the hell not? right? We should be capitalizing on that content or that content.
And they are not only speaking to anyone within the client's organization, like the executive levels. No, they are speaking to the actual user,
exactly,
the one who uses it day after day.
And the ones that, regardless of whether they're going to be the decision maker on whether to continue to do business with you or not, they are definitely the ones who are going to get their message and influence whether that renewal is going to happen, whether that expansion is going to happen. Because I remember when I used to run NPS surveys, one of the things that was really important to me, one of the things that was really critical for me to look at was the NPS survey results from the senior executive who doesn't use the product on a daily basis, and comparing that to the end users. You know, and when the C-suite executives gives you a 9, but the end users are giving you a 4, you have a huge problem, because at some point those 4s are going to end up talking to them to number 9. The only reason why he's a 9 is because the sales rep took him out for golf, the week before, right?
That's
and
critical.
That is I mean, and we found those. I would look specifically for those things, and I'd be like, "Hey, big freaking red flag here, folks."
Yeah.
Right. And that stuff it'll end up bubbling up at some point. It really will. Okay. One last question before we get to our audience questions. Technology plays an increasingly important role in support. How can, and when I'm talking about technology, I'm talking about, CRM, Jira, but probably at top of everybody's minds these days is AI. Right. So how can individual contributors effectively blend human empathy with technological tools like AI, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever your tool of choice is, to enhance the success-oriented approach? Are there specific tools or techniques that you all have found are helpful to support professionals to better understand the customer context and their needs?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I mean, your traditional tools, to me, they're great because you can track the interactions, et cetera. But as we switch over to AI, I've been asked this question multiple times: is AI going to replace the support agent? And my answer is no. AI is going to replace the support agents that don't use AI, but the people will always be there, which gets back to your point about empathy and building relationships. Use the tools to get more relevant content and answers for your customer. Use these AI tools, ideally to tap into how to solve the problems. Use the tools to understand your customer business and their markets better, but it doesn't replace that. And so it doesn't replace the support agent, to be clear. Where I've had success in doing this is looking at are there a certain amount of technology leveraging AI with the top 10, maybe 15 questions our customers typically ask that we can either deflect altogether through a self-service portal that leverages AI technology, or when the call comes in, we have the answers right away, which allows us to have more time to actually talk and understand the other things we've been talking about already. So it's that efficiency there. But to look at AI as, being a replacement to what's out there today with support people, to me, that's a big mistake. That being said, you get executives looking at cutting costs, et cetera, that sometimes can go down that road. But that just a small example of how I've leveraged, just in the last, say, 2 years, artificial intelligence to drive more efficiency in how we can understand the root of the problem and really get the right solution to the customer quicker. That also provides relevant content to have those more in-depth conversations, is how I would recommend leveraging AI, at least to start. You can get a lot deeper, and there's a lot of other things you can do with it.
I tell you, I use ChatGPT because it has the connection to the internet. I use ChatGPT when I'm about to get on a call with a prospect, and this is the same thing. So you can use this in the support realm as well. I can sit there and say, "Hey, tell me something. Help me better understand this customer." And I'll throw in the name of the customer. I'll throw in their URL. Just give me a concise description of who they are and what they do. And so when I get on a call with that prospect, I actually, as they're starting to talk to me, I'm able to actually interact with them and have a more meaningful conversation. Oh, so I understand that you do X, Y, and Z. I could see how this could be a problem, right? It actually it enables you to be more empathetic. Just that simple thing, and it literally takes 2 minutes. It is such a quick thing to be able to go, tell me about this. Tell me about Calendly. Oh, Calendly does blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. I'm going to get on the phone with somebody from Calendly. Now I'm going to have some sense to be able to empathize with them.
Yeah,
Develop
I think
that context point.
Exactly.
100% agree. And people are different. And this will take us back to know your customer. Someone would like to jump on a phone call for 3 minutes just for a small question. Another one, sending me the guide or the instructions or the word sheet or whatever. Another one is good with the live chat. So it depends on the client's preferences. Someone is tech savvy. Another one is just more human. When I really speak to someone, I need to speak to a human. So a kind of integration and the mix between the AI and the human interactions must take a place, must be there.
100%. Geoff, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big philosophical statement. I think it's a little naive to say it will never replace us. I'm very invested in AI as far as an interest and just a utilization my own self. I utilize it pretty heavily in all that I do. Not all that I do, but a lot of things in which I do. And it's really hard to know what the long-term end game will be. Is it sufficient today? In most scenarios, it's not. I've actually been on a listening tour with a number of different products that have been selling support-specific AI tools, and none of them quite can capture some of the nuances of some of the technicalities of really getting into the complications in products. When they start to get really complicated, they start to fail out a little bit there. But I agree with Dave from a perspective of right now, fantastic tools. It is an efficiency booster in like every area. There is a space for AI to help agents be better than they've ever been before. One of the very specific tools that we are actively utilizing at Calendly that I like a lot is called Loris, and it is an agent guidance tool. It also does QA and other things, but the focus that we have for it is an agent's guidance. So it is monitoring the conversation and kind of giving suggestions to the agent of like, hey, they said this, you should probably talk about these things or ask these type of questions. And you can do that in a non-traditional AI sense today with like trees and such, but the intelligence part is nice because it's very directive like this. If the conversation changes or moves or goes to this, it's going to suggest various things. It also gives suggestions on like, this is what you should say. Here's things you can take away and modify it. And so it improves that. A lot of our communication is done through chat. So it maybe not as applicable in like a voice scenario if that's your customer base. But that is a tool that we actively use and I really like. I do foresee a future where a lot of support is coming from internal, and this is a little on the philosophy side, and I'll be very short. Basically, you have an AI that lives inside your platform, and it's like a Pendo guide. You say, I need to do this. It's like, here, let me show you how to do that within your own platform, and it guides the customer through whatever element they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
That will drastically reduce support volume, I think, at least in the SaaS industry. It will move away a lot from that. It's never going to replace everyone. You need people, but I think that's not that far out. So we'll see.
It's a drive. It's still a drive for efficiency. So I get it. Awesome. All right, let's take some of these questions. Our first question comes from Ignite. Can you give a few examples of adding small pieces to written communications to help build relationships with your customers? Sham, you want to jump in on this one first?
Yes, thank you. Great question. It depends on if you are using a kind of any technology, a platform or something, CLM, or you are using just a very normal email Outlook or something at your workplace. If you are using the CLMs or those kind of platforms, you will find templates there. If you are using the Outlet, you can actually add your own templates by going to your signature so you can improve your productivity. So not every time you start to, excuse me, sorry about that. Not every time you start to write an email from the scratch. No, you can put the subject line. It depends on what are you trying to communicate for those clients. And then you can add, we all know, Andrew, you said that before, the image, the picture talks way more than the words. So, for example, you can take a little bit of very simple images with arrows. If you are trying to communicate how to use something very short and simple to the client, if you want to mention something about the account status, for example, on a trial or active, show this to the client over the images. So that kind of pieces that you can add. You can also add kind of resources by hyperlink or something where they can click, take them somewhere to get the information they need. So develop these templates, put them and save them under your signatures. So it depends on what are you trying to achieve. They will be very helpful.
I use images all the time. Well, I don't try and explain it to somebody. Here's where on the platform you find this. I sit there and I'll open up our page, and I'll find where it is on the page, and I'll snap a photo, and I'll draw a red circle around it. Here, this is, right? Make it really easy. David, Geoff, do you got anything to add to that?
We use a tool. It's from a company called Tango, but I know Pendo has something in it as well that we can walk somebody through. It records the steps to how to configure a new user. Let's just say takes it through that. It's a snippet of content. You plug it in there, and then answers their question in a way that they can visually see it. To your point about using images, this takes it even to the next step, which is video. And when we look at the amount of usage our customers get out of that has gone through the roof and now we have a library of content, so you can just say, oh, let me just take this, plug it in there, and you're good to go.
Yeah, Loom is also a good product for that as well. We've done walkthroughs with Loom, quick walkthroughs with Loom. Geoff, you got anything to add?
No, I think approaching various learning styles and how you educate your customers is really important. So video is great. We use Loom. We love it. We use a product called Upscope, it's basically like a Zoom, but it's very fast. It's just in our own product, and we can just say, hey, you're going to go here, go here, go here, click this, click this. I'm a big fan of action learning. So not actually doing it on behalf of customers, telling them what to do, watching them do it, and then making sure they're going through that action themselves. If they do that a couple of times, it will stick in their memory. And so a big fan of that.
Awesome. Sham, can you hit the done button on that question for me, please? Excellent. All right. Our next question comes from Greg. Greg asks, what have you done or what's worked to encourage collaboration, coaching, mutual appreciation between customer support and success professionals? And why am I not surprised that David wanted to weigh in on this one first? Because you've lived that.
Yes, I have lived it, and honestly love the fact that I have. And it goes back to what I talked about earlier. Being in the support role is the great farm system for moving into success. And if you don't have people that have been in that, so if you're a CSM who maybe came in, spend a few days, even a few hours sitting in a support team's queue, listening to phone calls, taking phone calls, doing that, understanding what our customers are saying and experiencing about their customer experience. Because that perception of the customer experience, hearing that firsthand is so powerful. So, that's what I can't emphasize enough, spending some time walking in the shoes of the support person and reversing that. The support person, going and sitting in on a business review or sitting in on conversations that the success team is having. That'll help them develop those skills of asking those questions to identify new opportunities, et cetera. The other piece I would say is celebrate those successes. And so one of my taglines is customer success is a team sport. And it really is. And it takes support, it takes success, it takes product. But when you have successes that really took participation on, various different departments, share and articulate that success across the whole organization so that people see that, Geoff in support and myself in success were able to solve this problem that turned into a new opportunity that Sham and sales went and closed. Those examples that the company can see are so powerful. So spend some time in each different role's shoes, collaborate across those, and then celebrate those successes and let people know about those successes when you work across multiple teams.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, yeah. Definitely celebrate the successes. But I love your sitting in support a suggestion. I actually, one of our customers, one of our very early clients, all their new success people spent their first 3 months at the company sitting in the support chair. And I thought it was an excellent idea.
It's part of our onboarding process for new people coming on board.
Yeah.
I was offered 6 months to cover someone going on a maternity, and it was great learning experience.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Geoff, you got anything to add?
No, I love all those things. I think it's super important to paint the picture that we're in this together. And when we work together, we have better outcomes. I think that's critical. I'm a fan of forcing product people to spend a little stint inside of support.
Yep.
I think it just gives them the empathy to understand like what's going on with customers. And also giving customer support agents opportunity to sit with success and to see business reviews and see those type of conversations, because a lot of people coming into support, it may be their first job. It may be their first entry into corporate world and corporate landscape. And they don't necessarily have the understanding of like what real business conversations look like. And so they're coming with that break fix. I understand the product, and now I'm trying to like resolve issues. And so to help train them, I think it's great to build those relationships and allow them to see what's happening. And then, like David said, paint that picture and say, hey, we did this part of it, success did this part of it, sales did this part. We came together and had this, glorious win for our organization. So not too much more to add. I love it.
One of my previous roles as an interim head of customer success, and I own support. We got to one point where I actually, I forced the other executives on the team to spend half a day taking support calls. Like you need to experience this, right? So I got the CEO, I got the head of finance, the head of marketing, the head of operations. I'm like, you guys are going to sit here, take support calls. You need to hear directly from our customers. Because they were all pushing back on some of the changes I want to make, and that completely changed the conversation once they actually heard directly from them. And just a reminder, folks, we do go till 1:15. So if you can stick around, we're going to continue to answer as many questions as we can between now and 1:15 the hour. So thank you, Greg, for that question. Our next question, and by the way, you guys, if you go in there, you've already selected a few of these. Okay, good. Our next question comes from anonymous attendee who shows up at every single one of these. Jumping off your opening comment of support being integral to retention, even over marketing, what are some ways, call outs to make that a support team can do to demonstrate the value of the department to help shift the mindset about cost-centered actual revenue generator? David, you brought up a great idea, the CSQL. That is a great, that right there, number one, is the best way. Once you have people you have that mindset ingrained in them that they're not just about being reactive break fix, and they're about proactively trying to build relationships and seek out those opportunities, is generating CSQLs.
It's so powerful to be able to take that activity and tie it to a revenue number, both from a pipeline and the actual what ultimately was generated. And then your support leader can take that and have those, conversations around, this is the revenue impact we had either directly or indirectly on the business. And it's a fun conversation to have. It really is. Let's start by tracking it.
When you own a number or you have contribution to the number, it is incredibly powerful for your organization. If there are leaders out there, even if they're individual contributors, messages to your boss, right? If you own a number or have some sort of contribution to the number, that is what the leaders of your organization are interested in. That's what your board is interested in. I guarantee you that's what your CFO wants to hear as well.
Yes. And if the directors or the head of those organizations come together and showing the results of the health score, if there is a health score in the place, showing the happy customers, the promoters, the detractors, those are passive, they can work together about we are maintaining those customers to continue paying the subscription. They are loyal customers and great opportunity for upsell and expansion as well.
Yep, 100%. Geoff, anything to add?
We look at a few of those metrics. I think we look at a churn percentage of the cohort of if they contacted support or if they didn't, and when they churn out. And we tell that story pretty frequently. Is like, hey, if they talk to us, they're sticking around. Like they're staying here a lot longer than if they don't talk to us at all. So we like that. We look at expansion numbers. Like if they talk to us, did they expand in a time period? And we have actually quite a bit of revenue generation just from conversations with support, and we're not even trying to sell anything. And so we tell that story a lot.
And those can be some of the most powerful CSQLs. This is somebody who's not being paid or incented, even though I think that I think that if you do have a CSQL that turns into something, your support person should get something. Maybe it's a spiff or something like that. But these are people who are not incented to sell, and they're telling me about something that could help my business because they've been curious and they've asked good questions, right? And so I'm more likely to listen to them than to my account executive who's trying to sell me, who's motivated to sell me something.
Yeah.
For sure.
Andrew, this leads to, and I'm surprised we haven't brought it up yet, but that interaction is the customer looking to their support agent as their trusted advisor. Yeah. And the fact that we haven't brought up trusted, because that is so powerful that you're not there with my hand out to try to gain a commission or anything. You're actually just there as a way to help this person achieve their outcomes. Yeah. And this person is going to listen to you and they're going to trust in you and become that trusted advisor. And I know that's something that for the longest time I really tried to instill in my customer success teams is our objective is to become their trusted advisor. Where I've seen it shift and where I'm shifting it in support is the same thing. Become that trusted advisor that I know if I pick up the phone and I talk to Andrew, he's going to do everything he can to help me out. And, I love talking with him. Now, obviously, not everybody has a support organization that you can pick the name person. But if it's across the board as a mindset, once again, getting back to that mindset shift, then you're going to change the whole dynamic of how your customers see your support organization.
And anybody in that role is in an incredibly powerful position to actually sell more. Now, everybody, we've evolved our outcome-based selling program to now value-based selling, because that's really what it is. And part of that program, I introduced the concept that selling's not a bad thing. It's not, we sell every day, right? In support, you're selling that a customer should approach this in a different way. You're selling a new idea. You're selling them on a concept. You're selling them on, hey, try this to fix your problem. People are constantly selling. It's not a bad thing, right? And being in a position where you're a trusted advisor, where you are not incented like a salesperson to sell, but you're incented to help the customer achieve what they're trying to achieve. And if you demonstrated that they've already achieved something, right, and you're suggesting, hey, here's another way for you to get even more value, incredibly powerful. So whether you're in support or customer success, you should not be scared of the 4-letter word sell. It is not a bad word. You need to embrace that, and that's the foundation of this value-based selling program that we're rolling out. So, yes.
Sorry, just a very quick one. I know the time is very critical. Also sharing experience that the support have from dealing with other customers. But let me show you something. I have seen it with too many other customers that they requested because it does this outcome for them. They're going to take it right away once you share this experience.
Yeah, exactly. And that social proof is incredibly powerful as well. Yeah. But the key is if they're talking to support, then hopefully they are on their path to realizing value with your organization, or they've already realized value. So now what they're doing is they're talking to somebody that they've built some trust with within an organization that has already delivered value, right? As opposed to an account executive who is promising value based off of what somebody else, what another organization achieved value from. right? It's a completely different position, right? And if you've done a good job as an organization to not only deliver on the value that you're promised, but also communicate that you've delivered on that value, you're in an incredibly powerful position to position additional value for them.
Yeah. One thing I haven't operationalized well in my organization, but I've often thought about it, is when people are coming to you that are frustrated, frequently they've lost sight of their value, right? And so we're trying to realign them with their value. And a powerful way to do that is to remind them of what they've accomplished with your product. And so it comes back to surfacing up data that can empower agents. And, you know, AI could do that, or other tools can bring that information back. At Calendly, we're scheduling meetings. We're helping people make their scheduling process, you know, more fluid, easy, right? Yeah. And so sometimes I'm like, oh, I see that you scheduled 4,000 meetings in the last 2 years through our product. I bet that saved you a whole lot of time, you know, and just that light bulb moment where like, oh yeah, that probably did save me a lot of time, can help you then drive the conversation to, hey, you know what? Well, here's what I'm going to recommend you do moving forward, because I think it's going to set you up for that continual ease of your, you know, usage of our product or whatnot.
Now this is where, and I know David and his team have gone through this as well. This is where success plans, if you're using success plans, can be incredibly powerful, and you give access to the success plans to your support team. So when they're getting on with their customer, they're looking at the latest and greatest success plan, and they're able to cite those. Hey, I understand you're moving to this milestone, and here's your objectives, blah, blah. And they're showing up not just in this kind of break fix mode, but actually understanding the customer a bit better. And the great thing about our success plan is it's one page. So there's not a whole lot that they need to consume in order to figure out, okay, here's where the customer's at.
Yeah, involved with, yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, next question. I know that this was focused on the support team reps specifically, but out of curiosity, do you have any pointers or recommendations for a support rep transitioning to a CSM position to better adapt their mindset for their upcoming role and also utilize their support skills in their new position?
I would love to answer this.
All right. Well, yeah, you went from support to success. So let's hear what you've got to say, Sham.
Very valid point. When you have the experience working in support area, having this technical skills and know how does your product or solution works, and then in your kickoff meetings with your clients, you will have this luxury to catch up quickly with your client about their expectations, what the values they are looking for, outcomes, and then you can show them right away by showing your screen, oh, by the way, this is going to be covered more detail in the training with the training team or support team, but let me show you how does it work. From this moment, you build a trust with the user or with the client that you understanding how does it work. No, you are not just delivering a kickoff template or a success plan or a business review. No, you have a strong background in your mind how the system works, how to help the client achieve the outcomes, the best values, speed up the adoption at the onboarding as well. So that will help you by doing, again, what we shared a few moments ago about, you have seen that because you was in support, many tickets, many phone calls, many live chats, you did run how to fix this or how does it work, or answered the same questions many times. So for you, it's going to be very easy. You have the confidence, not just any confidence, the full confidence to show the client this will deliver. What are you looking for? Or what are you expecting?
Yeah, you walk in with that domain expertise, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I was going to say those real world examples are so powerful. And that's, I mean, honestly, one of the favorite things about being out talking to customers is gaining those stories that you can tell when you're talking to somebody else. And if you're, like you just mentioned, coming out of the support world, you've got a ton of stories to tap into. I'd almost say, you almost create a library of your favorite stories to use for different scenarios when you're in that success role. And it brings credibility, it builds the empathy. Ultimately, it builds that trust because the person you're talking to, the customer you're talking to, knows you've been there before and you've solved these challenges or you've brought this value to other customers in a similar circumstance. It's so powerful.
Storytelling is incredibly powerful.
Also, it's going to
Powerful.
help you to handle complaints as well. If you get a frustrated client, if you get someone, things are not working the way that they expected, you already know how to handle those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was mentioning to you guys before we launched the webcast, my daughter spoke at the school board meeting last night about a program that she was involved in. And the principal of the school and his administration put together a story about this program, and it was freaking awesome. I was sitting in the back going, "Oh my!" And my daughter, because my daughter understands what I do, and she leaned over and she says, "We've talked about this, about the how powerful storytelling is." I'm like, "Yeah." And by the time the story was over, I was sitting in the back going, "This is awesome. I love this. I love that my daughter's going to a school with these types of administrators." But they told the story, and then they had the characters in the story, which included teachers and students that were struggling in math, and then student tutors, which my daughter was one of, who spoke. And they told the story, and everybody was just sitting there going, "Oh my God, I get it. This is awesome. This is an awesome program." Storytelling is incredibly powerful. It allows people to relate. It gives them something to. There's typically an emotional hook that you can get in there and really, really empathize with them. Storytelling is incredibly powerful.
Connect.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for the question. Next question comes from L. Hines. How did you come to the realization that there needed to be a shift in the support mindset within your organization? How did your support team react to the change? And what practical steps did you take to successfully implement this change? And it looks like, Geoff, you want to jump in on this one first, and I'm sure, David, you got something to add as well. So, Geoff, why don't you start?
This question came early in our conversation, and I appreciated it a lot, because that is the question all support managers, support leaders have to ask themselves, is like, when do we need to shift our organizational stance on any given strategy? I think the real answer is you need to be close to what the customer interaction looks like. You need to understand where the pain points are and what the drop off is. When I initially started in my current role, I just started reading tickets, and I would see consistently some failed behaviors of agents where it was like, "Oh, we just told them, whatever." And then we didn't care about the emotional and business response to that information. And so I immediately started perusing to see if that was a more systemic problem, and it looked like it was. So you have to be close, you have to be engaged with the customers. You can't be a hands-off leader in support. I don't think it works well. You got to be close to that engagement with the customer. So that's the very first thing. From a reaction standpoint, change is challenging. I think your standard change management needs to be applied when you're coming up with a new concept or a new strategy or initiative that you're going to push forward to the whole department. You have to really highlight, the elements of it. Why is it important? What are we doing about it? What's the outcome of this going to be? And really sell that why and just paint that picture, right? Painting your picture is important for all facets of business. You must be able to tell a story and paint a picture to make it make sense. And I think once people really understood what we were trying to accomplish, like, oh, here is examples. Here are bad customer interactions where we failed our users. We failed. Coming with that and then being like, here's how we could have managed it differently, and here's how we need to start approaching it. It really just brought people on board. The people that wanted to get on board did. The other people got managed out. And that's just kind of the state of big organizational change. That's what has to happen a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
And from a practical steps, I mean, like I said, it's just, we had a communication plan. We said, here's what we're going to tell people. We talked to everyone, and then we held them accountable to the changes.
Love that. David, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I would say, especially around the why, make sure the why is in line with the vision of where you're going with the organization and ideally the company. I mean, that's how when I came in there, we were very much not focused on the customer experience, but we were focused on the metrics of how many tickets I closed, et cetera. And I saw it, to your point, you got to be in the tickets, you got to be in the conversations, listen in there directly with your customers to understand what behaviors are going on, and then highlight why this behavior is not going to get us to the achievement of world-class customer experience, et cetera. And so we have to change to where we're focusing on all the things we've talked about today. And I had to do the same thing. There were certain people that bought into it. everybody across the board was uncomfortable with the change. I'll be perfectly frank, but then look for tools, and I'll give Andrew a plug on this. The training that we're going through has helped a lot of my support people that have been in a support role, and this is their first support role they've ever been in, to really think like a customer, engage in active listening, develop that emotional intelligence and empathy, all the things that are needed to make that mindset shift. So look at, ways that you can get people to get the training that they need, whether that's through a course or through reading, but also even conversations. And before we even started the training, we had a lot of conversations around what does it mean to think like a customer and put yourself in the customer's shoes, and how do you like it when you get an auto response that says, "Thank you, your ticket has been taken and shipped off to development, and we'll get back to you with an update." How does that make you feel when you get that? Well, that's what we're doing to our customers. And then you can get into the steps of, are you over pivoting to macros and things like that in your ticketing system that are very impersonal? And even things like picking up the phone versus working in email. Shift to the phone conversations if you can. So some practical steps there, but it's you got to be in there and hearing what your customers are saying, whether that's in a ticket or in, literally listening on the phones.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, adding to that, sorry, one last thought.
Sure, Geoff.
Investing in a QA program that you are connected to is going to be driving the outcomes you want. Making sure that's happening and then applying that across all your department is critical. Support is all about scale. It's all scale. You can't deal with one-on-one except for maybe learning a little bit, but you want to apply a methodology or push a strategy forward. It has to be built and baked into your QA program.
Awesome. Good suggestion. Makes sense. All right. We've reached the end of today's session. I want to thank our guests for sharing their valuable insights and experiences. Your contributions make these discussions truly meaningful for our community. To our audience, thank you for your active participation. Share your thoughts about today's session on LinkedIn by tagging myself, our guests, or Success Hacker or Success Coaching. We love to hear your takeaways. Mark your calendars for our next CS Mastermind on April 23rd, when we'll explore managing customer expectations as your product evolves. Finally, let me leave you with this. Great customer-focused individuals know that they don't have all the answers, but they know where to find them. And that's why we created this series. Have a great rest of your day and month, and we'll see you in April. Jesus, it's April already. Oh, my God. Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody.